Hello and welcome to The Long Couch. My name's Carl. I'm joined tonight by Mel.
As always, I'm your co-host Mel, back at it with some not only utterly brilliant but also educated and never incorrect commentary on the happenings of the modern world.
And on tonight's episode, we will be discussing disgraced celebrities.
Gonna have some real hot takes on this one. I'm like a hot take machine.
These three figures, once lauded for their talents and achievements, now find themselves overshadowed by scandal, controversy, and public scrutiny. Tonight, we delve into the intricate dynamics of celebrity downfall, exploring the societal fascination and consequences surrounding these fallen icons. This is Disgraced Celebrities.
Dude, I feel like my brain is like warmed up. I just did that sophomore slump video. I just talked about a couple fall-offs.
Well, there you go. These celebrities, they fell off hard.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about people that, one, will never know I exist, and despite their horrific mistakes, will always have millions more dollars than me. But hey, if the one thing that I got and they don't, I still got my pride.
No one can take that away from you.
No one can take that away from me.
Unless if years down the line, you get involved in some kind of sex scandal.
Yeah, dude, years down the line, when I have a manic break due to the mounting pressure of being a world famous podcast star, and I run naked through the streets of a metropolitan area, you can say you saw it coming.
That would be pretty disgraceful indeed.
That would, I can see that being maybe having a negative impact on my reputation.
So let's start off with the most topical of all. Actually, you know what? Second most topical. This is P Diddy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. Diddy.
Before today, this probably would have been celebrity gossip, like, number one. But unfortunately, we decided to record this episode the day that O.J. Simpson died. So P. Diddy kind of seems overshadowed because an old conversation has kind of been brought back to life. Resurrected.
We'll get to O.J.
Oh, I can't wait. I have so much to say about O.J. Simpson and how he murdered those two people.
Well, let's save it for the last entry. Let's take a look at Puffy Daddy Big P. Diddy himself, a.k.a. Sean Combs.
Okay.
He's an American rapper, producer, record executive. Prior to launching his own record label, Bad Boy Records, in 1993, he was a talent director at Uptown Records, and he's widely recognized for discovering Mary J. Blige, Notorious B.I.G., and Usher.
Something that I like about kind of like this sort of like budding culture in hip hop in the 1990s, especially where we're kind of like finally seeing hip hop not only as a artistic force but also as a corporate entity, right? We're seeing hip hop musicians really getting a lot of money. Jay-Z is becoming increasingly wealthy. You have hip hop artists being in control of their masters, owning labels, owning record labels. One of my favorite things about this kind of like shift this in dynamic is like all of the names of the labels. You had Bad Boy Records, you had Death Row Records, you had Cash Money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not gonna get those great names out of like a like a fucking Americana record label. No,
this was kind of like, I think, the 90s, maybe the late 80s, were like a big renaissance for, like, I would say, black artists. People who like at one point probably had next to nothing were finally able to, because hip hop music became so popular at the time and profitable, they were able to, rise out of that and, make a bunch of money, make their own labels, have their own, labels made by black artists for black artists.
Yeah. I mean, Jay-Z is like, he's like the quintessential like American rags to riches story.
Mm-hmm.
That's like honestly like why a lot of people were inspired by him.
Yeah. And because of that, they can do a lot of charitable work and give back to their communities.
Not P. Diddy, though.
Well, P. Diddy did do a lot of that.
But he did some bad stuff too.
He definitely did some bad stuff. Now, just because these people fell from grace doesn't mean they were always terrible.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had grace in the first place.
And we are going to touch on their rise as well. We're going to touch on some of their biggest achievements in life and where it all went wrong and kind of what is the fallout of that. So let's touch on some of Mr. Diddy's greatest achievements. So he got widespread fame in the music industry as the label boss and manager of Biggie. And following Biggie's tragic unsolved murder, Combs released his debut studio album, No Way Out, in 1997 as a tribute. And partially because of his influence as Biggie's manager, it blew up. And this was, released in the wake of Biggie's murder. And the album garnered critical acclaim, topped the Billboard 200 chart, and achieved septuple platinum certification.
Jesus Christ, went platinum 7 times?
So very, very successful debut album.
I did not know that No Way Out I knew that it was a massive record. I did not know that it was platinum 7 times over. Also, crazy thing to do, right? It's like your boy dies and it's like, all right, time to cash in. Time to like, because he manages Biggie and then Biggie dies and he's like, all right, now it's my turn.
I mean, who knows if it's just a timing thing,
It worked out. I mean, he released a tribute out his debut album in the wake of his biggest artist's death, and bam, septuple, man.
Is it possible this album wouldn't be as successful if not for that? Or do you still think it would be a super platinum album?
I think either way it would have been an incredibly successful record. But I think that maybe the context of its release, I think it had some sort of like measurable impact. I don't think that was a negligible impact that it had.
Okay, so Combs also boasts an impressive array of accolades, including 3 Grammy Awards, 2 MTV Music Video Awards, and a Guinness World Record for Most Successful Rap Producer in 1997. He's also went into other forms of media, like he had his own MTV show called Making the Band. He has his own fashion brand, Sean John, and he even earned the prestigious Menswear Designer of the Year award in 2004. So he's had success all over. It's
impressive.
He's even got his own vodka brand.
Dude, what's up with celebrities and alcohol brands? I think that's like, because here's the thing. You have celebrities that have branded items, right? That in some way like are marketed to be like, hey, this is like the Rock's tequila, right?
Right.
But it's interesting to me when celebrities, when they decide for their sort of like product of choice to be an alcohol, because that is the least believable item to sell, that in which you could maybe imply that the artist had some sort of contribution to the development of the product.
I mean, I think people understand that this is just like a brand deal.
I know, but if The Rock released like a line of like fashionable but affordable like sportswear, I would believe that he had some part in designing it.
Sure, yeah.
But like The Rock releases his tequila, and I'm like, no, there's no fucking way he had anything to do with that. He probably just tasted it and either gave a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Or the brand already existed and they just pulled these celebrities
slapped his name on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this might be a totally brain dead take, but maybe it's just because all alcohol is like kind of the same. And there are so many of them that it's like, well, this one isn't just any vodka. This is P Diddy's vodka. So
that's a crazy take. And I actually know for a fact that you're wrong, because I like wine and Snoop Dogg's wine sucks.
Well, I mean, wine is very different. There's a lot of distinct flavors. But if it's like vodka or tequila, it's kind of like they all do the job.
A lot of people would argue very strongly against that. I'm not going to.
I'm not a drinker.
But I know people that would.
But like if you want to make your certain vodka, which is very similar to hundreds of other vodkas, stand out, you slap The Rock's face on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more compelled to buy it just because it's got The Rock's face on it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
If I walked into a store and it was like, hey, dude, your options are nondescript vodka #1 or vodka by Gilbert Godfrey, I'd be like, well, fuck, man, I'm getting the Gilbert vodka. I'm getting the Gilbert juice.
How can you not?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm presented with those two options, I'm going to pick like the haha celebrity every time.
The Gilbert juice. I like that.
Rest in
So
peace.
October 13th, 2006 was declared Diddy Day by Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley. And now they're probably gonna, remove that from the calendar.
Yeah.
In 2008, Diddy became the first male rapper to be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And it's estimated his net worth is about $1 billion as of 2022.
That sounds about right.
So no doubt the man is incredibly successful.
Yes.
And what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, someone like that, I mean, here's the thing. If there's one thing that I believe, it's that anybody who has accumulated a wealth of over $1 billion, they have no skeletons in their closet. Clean in my eyes.
So prior to this whole recent incident, I really had no idea about all of as we'll discuss, this is not his first rodeo with the law.
No.
So in 1997, he was sued for landlord neglect. In 1999, he pled guilty to the assault of NASA's former manager, Steve Stout, and he paid $500,000 out of court. In 1999 as well, he allegedly sparked an incident which led to gunfire breaking out, and he was charged with 4 weapon-related charges and bribery, but he's found not guilty on all charges.
I was going to say, yeah, Diddy's allegedly done a lot of things.
Exactly. We'll see the list here, and basically it's like assault here, battery there, and it's always it's settled out of court, or not enough evidence, or he's just found not guilty. So it's
what happens when you got money and power, baby.
Yeah, none of these things have really stuck. One thing that he actually kind of got held to his feet to the fire, though, was in 2003. Sean John factories in Honduras were under scrutiny for the working conditions. They had things like locked bathrooms, forced overtime, and involuntary bodily searches and pregnancy tests.
Okay.
So, even in Honduras, these things are against the law, and they had to really go in and improve working conditions in that sense. So in 2004, a number of factory improvements were made, and a labor union was allowed to be formed. So
yeah, we love unions.
So something had to be done in order to not totally demolish that brand. Though there are still plenty of profitable fashion brands that violate labor laws all around the world.
Yeah, that's true. And it'll probably always be true.
And it probably might have gotten slightly better, or even just better temporarily, and maybe just went back to being terrible again. Who can say?
I remember when I was in middle school or high school, we kind of had like a bit of like a little, just like assignment, random English assignment, random whatever. And I did like some very quick research on essentially like labor laws and kind of outsourcing to like sweatshops in more impoverished countries. And Forever 21 was under fire from the law. I think they're trying to file a lawsuit against Forever 21 for, essentially using slave labor.
Mm-hmm.
And Forever 21 was like, oh, we don't own those sweatshops. We get our clothing from them, but we don't own them. Those are owned by a third party that we work through. So really, we can't be held accountable.
Right.
And it worked. And
Yeah.
and since that day, I was like, oh, this is fucked, man. The fashion world is fucked.
There's always a loophole. So as I was scrolling through all of P Diddy's run-ins with the law, I definitely noticed that trend of he's constantly being accused, sometimes arrested, sometimes charged of assault and battery, and none of them really stick.
Yeah, you ever notice how poor people don't settle out of court?
He's definitely able to leverage his money and power to kind of slip away with some of these things that he's allegedly done.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking crazy. I feel like every like major celebrity like law scandal from the past like 3 decades has just been like, yeah, this incredibly famous, incredibly wealthy person was caught by a group of 12 people actively murdering a bunch of children in like a torture dungeon. but never convicted, settled out of court. It's like, okay, cool, that's fine.
Many of these were civil lawsuits, and those are the kind that you can definitely settle out of court. Somebody accuses you of such and such, and they want to take you to court, and you say, here's $500,000. Let's just be cool about this.
Yeah, here's a shit ton of money. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I will never be held accountable for anything.
Yeah, you can't so easily buy your way out of a criminal charge. Though I guess that's kind of debatable.
Yeah, I don't know. I a bit hyperbolic, but still, I think my point still stands. As in, like, people like Diddy, like, most of the time won't be held accountable because they can just pay their way out of their problems.
Right, you can definitely leverage your money to get a great legal team, which we'll look at later.
Yeah.
So let's look at that.
Can't wait.
So this is a developing story, which I know very little about in the grand scheme of things. So we're not going to go into super detail on this, but we're just touching on how terrible these allegations are and how this could potentially destroy P Diddy.
Yeah, this could be the end for
yes.
Diddy if it's if they go about it in a, I don't know, tactful manner.
So as of right now, Puff Daddy has denied all allegations and he has not been charged yet. But he's facing accusations of sex trafficking, sexual abuse, and rape. And I'm talking multiple allegations. Recently, federal agents with the U.S. Homeland Security raided 2 of the rapper's houses in L.A. and Miami. The results are yet to be determined, I suppose.
Like now, today, like if the feds raid somebody's home, like it's not because they just have like a suspicion of something.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the feds raid your home, they know that you fucked up. Like they know you did something wrong and they have enough evidence to do a fucking raid on your home. Like if the feds raid your home, you're fucked. Like you're already done for, in my mind.
Well, I mean, I guess that depends on if they find something.
See, the thing is like, I feel like if the feds raided Diddy's home, they already found something. And now they just need additional things to sort of substantiate their claims.
That is true. Yeah, it could be hard even if all of this turns out to be untrue or he's found not guilty in some way, that people probably won't just give him the benefit of the doubt based on that.
Yeah, or it's like people talk about like Thugger's like RICO case, like racketeering charges. Like the government does not charge you with racketeering unless like they know something about you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are like cases and like claims that like take years to build up. Like I'm sure they've been planning to raid Diddy's home for a long time. You know, I mean, there's like years worth of work to make sure that when they finally decide to charge somebody with something, it sticks.
Well, he has yet to be charged, but they got enough to get a warrant to search his homes.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. I'm not a lawyer, but I assume that's what they need to raid your house, is some kind of search warrant. I've watched cop shows before. All right.
I mean, maybe like going into somebody's home, but I would imagine a federal raid, probably you got to have a little bit more than just like reasonable suspicion.
Right. So what exactly are these allegations? There are so many and they're developing so quickly that we can only cover a couple. We're just going to kind of touch on them. So Diddy's former partner, Cassandra Ventura, aka Cassie, filed a lawsuit in 2023 alleging that she was trafficked, raped, and beaten by Combs on many occasions over 10 years. And this kind of sparked a bunch of other people to come out and make similar allegations. And this is something you don't often see either. But producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones alleged he was subjected to unwanted advances by associates of Diddy at his direction, and that he was forced to engage in relations with sex workers against his will. The producer, who worked for Combs between September 2022 and November 2023, claimed Combs sexually harassed, drugged, and threatened him for more than a year.
Dude, I'm not surprised that like once like Cassie like her lawsuit became public, I'm not surprised that more people came out, because with somebody like Diddy, you kind of have to rely on that domino effect happening, because I feel like I see people all the time are like, oh, why didn't they say something until now? Or like, oh, now that one person said something, now everyone's got a story. And it's like, yeah. Like somebody like Diddy is like, Diddy's like a powerful guy. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of influence.
Yeah.
I understand not wanting to fucking speak out against him. Most people just thought it wasn't worth the trouble.
Especially in this case, when you're a man accusing another man of sexual assault, like that can be hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like, you know, I mean, with like the way we've kind of built a culture around masculinity, a lot of guys would be like ashamed to be like, oh, I was, you know, sexually harassed, assaulted, coerced by another man.
Some of these allegations are based on a new law that allows people to make these allegations even after the statute of limitations has expired. I don't know the specific detail, but that is relevant to why some of these came out, because some of them are quite old.
Okay.
But in Lil Rod's lawsuit, he also alleges that Combs regularly had sex trafficking parties with underage women and illegal drugs.
I did kind of read up a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole thing with Diddy is like I said, if the feds raided his home, they probably know something we don't. And I know that he's kind of like sent them on a bit of a wild goose chase, you know, with his private plane leaving the country and coming back into the country. And, you know, he's kind of, I guess, he's panicking, I guess, because, you know, if I was Diddy in Diddy's position, then I would also probably be panicking. Because if what they're accusing of him of is true, that he will be in jail for arguably the rest of his life.
Yes.
And he's probably still got a couple decades left on him. So it sucks because it's just kind of like one of those instances of like, you know, as more information comes to light, you realize how much this person has gotten away with because of the influence and the power they have. I mean, look at Cosby. You know, Cosby got away with some pretty horrific acts for years, and then like it didn't serve that long a jail sentence before he got out.
Right.
You know? And so it sucks to kind of, I guess, and this is nothing new, this has been going on for a while, but it sucks to see people in power essentially leverage their way out of a punishment that maybe somebody else would get in their position.
It's very easy to get away with it too when everybody's in on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, can you imagine what other people in Hollywood are involved in this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's actually probably a decent number of people who saw that Diddy's home got raided and were like, oh, I'm fucked. This is going to come back on me.
Right. This could be like a similar to another Epstein thing here.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they you know, they were talking about the Epstein flight logs. I mean, like that's like the golden goose for any Fed.
It's almost like an open secret that like powerful people in Hollywood are just like sex traffickers and illegal drug users and rapists and the whole kit and caboodle.
Jeff Epstein, the financial advisor. But yeah, you're right. Big old open secrets, and because I think for a long time it's like you kind of like sort of operate from this perspective that it's like a big conspiracy that like Hollywood's all like pedophiles and you know everyone's kind of like in on it, and you're like, oh haha, what a wacky and wild conspiracy. And then more time passes, more things come to light, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
You're like, that shit might be true.
So because of this, of course, every brand that was associated with Diddy obviously severed ties with him. And I mean, basically he's going to lose everything here.
Yeah, even if it takes a while to get any sort of conviction, his reputation is beyond fucked.
Yes. Yeah, you don't come back from this. As you shouldn't.
And here's the thing, though. If he doesn't get convicted of anything, even if he loses his reputation, nobody ever wants to work with him again, whatever. He gets away with it. He's got all of this money. You know, he can retire to his fucking lavish mansion for the rest of his life. So he better get fucking convicted if he did that shit.
Right. And we can hope that justice is served. And these were just two accusations in many. So I could be here all night covering this story, and it's a very deep story, and it's still developing. So I just wanted to kind of touch on it, how P. Diddy fell from basically being at the top, one of the most acclaimed artists and producers, to, well, being a scumbag criminal that will likely lose everything if he's convicted, or even if he's not convicted. Basically, his goose is cooked.
Yeah, he's done.
Okay, let's touch on somebody of a smaller scale, not in physicality, but in popularity.
God, what a fucking, that was, snuck that in there.
Basically, Boogie2988 is a gigantically obese, disgusting fuck.
God. It's harsh.
But was he always that way? Well, he was always fat, yes. But was he always a despicable, disgusting, slimy creature?
Not in the public's eye.
That's right.
Dude, Boogie is such a, like, just a crazy story. Like, just like, such a strange, odd, kind of avoidable downfall. Like, but I mean, I've never seen a YouTuber like soil their reputation quite the same way that he has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I wanted to touch on this, because he basically went from being Mr. Internet nice guy, loved by everyone, to being a total despicable, like, bottom of the barrel scumfuck, you know, that nobody fucking likes.
Yeah, this guy had like the reputation of like the internet, like a Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like everyone was like, oh, he's like the internet dad. He's like the dad of YouTube. He's so sweet. Everyone loves him. And then now Boogie has the reputation of being like a weird alt-right kind of like perpetually manic incel man. Like, it's crazy.
So Stephen Jason Williams, aka Boogie2988, is an American YouTuber born in 1974. He's best known for his rants on video games and nerd culture, and his satirical character Francis, who is like the embodiment of fat gamer rage. That's the character that earned him his place on YouTube as being one of the earliest YouTube success stories.
Yeah. Like, also, not to put on my tinfoil hat, but if he was born in 1974, wonder what the 88 in his username is for.
Yeah.
You know, just, I mean, like I said, not to like get super conspiracy theory here, but like, is that, I mean, that's a common Nazi dog whistle is all I'm going to say. I'm not calling him a Nazi. I'm just saying. I just see a username with 88 in it, and my brain is immediately like, that's concerning.
Well, I don't know the significance of those numbers. They could be totally random. They could have been his school lunch number for all I know.
Yeah, you're right.
Basically,
you're right. I'm just saying.
Boogie got in the YouTube game very early in like 2006 and just started fucking around and making dumb, silly little videos as his character Francis, maybe talking about some video games, some Magic the Gathering kind of stuff. And, well, people latched on to his personality and also his character doing these crazy, outrageous gamer rage things.
Yeah, oh my gosh, big fat guy is out of Mountain Dew and crushes a table.
Mm-hmm. And he was featured on Ray William Johnson, and that's really what got him his start.
Yeah, remember when Ray William Johnson was like, you know, that's the guy who knows.
He was the internet, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Boogie's accomplished a lot of great things online. He's got billions of views, millions of subscribers. He won Trending Gamer at the Game Awards in 2016. And as Mel said, he was at the time known as the Mr. Rogers of YouTube. He was the internet nice guy. He was kind of a centrist. He's kind of seen as the voice of reason on YouTube. When drama would arise, he would kind of chime in with like, can't we all get along? Here's my reasonable, rational opinion.
Yeah, he still does that, but now he's a fucking fence sitter instead of like being like a... And here's the thing is like, that's the easiest reputation to uphold, right? Uh-huh. Like, if you have a reputation for being kind-hearted, understanding, and generally amicable, all you have to do is when you engage with conversation and discourse online, or you post things online, you just maintain that image. It's not hard to just be nice. Like, if your reputation is guy who is nice, that's a pretty easy reputation to perpetuate.
Well, unless you're secretly not a nice guy.
That is true. I guess the seams will start to split eventually. Yeah,
and there's this weird thing where if you give somebody money and influence, then, I don't know, something weird happens and it all goes to their head and they start to abuse it.
I think everyone is predisposed to have a reaction to being famous.
Uh-huh.
Right? Everyone does. And the thing is I think most people, the majority of people, are predisposed to react negatively. I genuinely don't think most people have the capacity to handle being famous.
Well, let's consider Boogie specifically. He's basically super mentally ill and unstable.
Yes.
And he has a lot of untreated trauma in his past. He also seems to be kind of like a compulsive liar and manipulator, which is great for being an entertainer.
Yeah.
And, well, he feels like deprived by the world of all these things. And he's like a self-loathing fat guy who, when he finally gets the spotlight and he gets money and he gets the ability to have women at his disposal, well, I mean, of course he abuses that.
Yeah, and the thing is like I think that and like I said, I think that most people are not predisposed to be able to handle fame at any sort of like level-headed like level. It's being famous, I would imagine, is got to be incredibly hard in terms of the attention that is always on you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, with somebody like Boogie, it's just like the internet like has increased the density of the famous person population. It's rapidly growing at an exponential rate. And so people like, because of that, people like Boogie get famous. They become like, for all intents and purposes, celebrities. I feel like we're just going to continue to see more and more people kind of start to crack under the pressure because truthfully, they were never really supposed to be famous in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I imagine we'll see a lot of that. And there's going to be a lot of these YouTuber, like behind the music style things, like similar to this.
I mean, yeah, we're at the point where it's like where like YouTubers, some of them have this level of prestige, have this level of like mainstream celebrity that like there is like a serious like amounting concern around the environments that they cultivate. I mean, Austin Jones, manipulated his primarily underage girl audience to send him, sexually explicit content. And like he was in a position of power to do that. And so like YouTubers are like, they're celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
And so in some cases, they have the power that comes with being a celebrity. David Dobrik, got away with doing some bad shit until he didn't. And then he, was kind of deplatformed a little bit. But like a lot of we keep seeing more and more YouTubers being exposed as, kind of like what we sort of, they have a label that we typically reserve for like exposed, like, Hollywood A-listers. And I just, the more power they have, the more we're going to see crack and kind of be exposed for leveraging that power against maybe more disenfranchised positions, people in the positions.
Yeah, and there's that quote from Batman about how you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Feel like that applies
that
here
is
on
applicable
YouTube
here.
Because
that is applicable.
It seems like if you're a good guy on YouTube, like you retire. You get out of the public spotlight. Like we saw that with Matt Pat and Tom Scott. Basically, they were like, we've done enough and we are retiring from YouTube. Goodbye, everyone. And basically, other YouTubers we've seen, we followed them for like 10 years, even more. And then suddenly turns out that they're total scumbags and scammers.
Yeah. And I think that, but I think that the people who are total scumbags and scammers will never have like the proper amount of like cognizance needed to know when to get out.
That's true.
Because they'll always want more. Mm-hmm. Those kind of people can't let go of that power. They can't let go of that. That's why Boogie, despite, falling into fucking financial ruin due to his garbage fucking crypto investments, he begs his audience for help. He begs his audience for help because like he cannot let go of that position that he once had.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they have something good. A guy wins, there's, horror stories of people winning the lottery and blowing all their fucking money and then just going back to working a regular ass job.
Mm.
But somebody in the position like Boogie Boogie can't work a regular job. He's had a taste. He's had a taste of what life can be for somebody with money and power. And so he'll always like, he can't let go of that power.
Yeah.
People that like retire from that position, like Matt Pat, he wasn't abusing his power. He wasn't nefariously greedy. And so he retired because he felt like it was time to.
Mm-hmm. And if he wanted to come back into it, he would have a much easier time than somebody who's disgraced, of course.
Exactly. Leave on your terms. But people who have like those kind of intentions are too greedy to let go.
I agree.
And so they end up fucking themselves over in the end because, you keep doing something, you're going to get caught eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's good because they get caught and they get the, appropriate punishment or repercussions. If let's say like if Austin Jones like would have dipped out or bowed out right before he got caught, maybe those girls never would have gotten justice. So I guess maybe in a way it's a good thing these people can't let go of power because they're more likely to get punished for it.
That's true. And I imagine we'll see more of that in the future, unfortunately.
More than likely, yeah.
So where did it all go wrong for Boogie? First off, in 2019, he admitted to potentially committing tax fraud. Apparently he buys Magic the Gathering cards for his channel, and he writes them off.
Of course Boogie would just admit it.
Yep, I did a tax fraud, you guys. Well, he's just too stupid. He doesn't know any better. He doesn't realize that what he's doing is actually illegal and not just like a life hack.
Yeah, he said, crazy life hack, guys. I don't know why nobody's talking about this. You can lie about your taxes.
Yeah, you can buy these cards for your channel, write them off as a business expense, and then resell them without even claiming your profits.
Okay, so why is nobody else trying this?
Yeah. He kind of falls into that edgy edgelord category where he's constantly making boundary pushing, controversial jokes, pushing the envelope with like kind of playing with racism and anti-Semitism and just weird stuff like that.
The thing is there is a time to get out of that and to not have any punishment for it. I mean, there is a lot of content creators that made pretty like out of pocket and off color and like risque humor. That was their whole brand, was like offensive humor, and they dipped out and they changed up their content before that was not nearly as socially acceptable, and it worked.
I mean, if that was his only offense, then we wouldn't be talking like this.
I mean, yeah. I mean, H3, has a pretty popular podcast and a social following, and like there's very easily findable clips of him saying the hard R, like not hiding it on his own podcast, saying the hard R. Like Joji, is an incredibly successful, recording artist, and his Filthy Frank was very edgy. That was the whole point of Filthy Frank. And so I think people like Joji recognized, there's a paradigm like shift. There's a shift in how this all works, and I'm gonna kind of move with that. But I think people like Boogie didn't recognize that and continued to just, I don't know. Boogie's just made a fool of himself time and time again.
Well, he's just very good at like making tweets or statements in his live streams that are just very off color. And
he can't help it.
Yeah,
he literally cannot. He cannot help himself.
Yeah. Here's the big one though. In 2020, Boogie discharged a firearm at his home in Arkansas, and he was charged with aggravated assault. And it was settled on a deferred adjudication. What exactly happened here? Well, he was in a Twitter beef with some guy called Frank Hassel, who was like an instigator. He's a real fucking douchebag on YouTube. He, like his name implies, he went around hassling people in public. And he got into a Twitter beef with Boogie. And I think Keemstar interviewed the two of them outside of Boogie's home. And then the next day, Frank shows up with a GoPro on his head at Boogie's door and starts harassing him. And Boogie steps out with his revolver and he ends up firing a warning shot to scare this guy off. And of course, you can't just unload your weapon in a residential area.
Here's the thing about like castle laws, because, most states have some form of a castle law where you can, defend your home.
Mm-hmm.
If you kill somebody, sometimes castle law will completely absolve you of any sort of responsibility from killing that person. But under castle law and other self-defense laws, warning shots are not a thing. Because if you fire a warning shot, you are admitting with your actions that you do not believe that your life is truly in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you truly believed that your life was in danger, you would shoot the person, not in the air. Which, by the way, does Boogie know that bullets have to come down eventually?
Right.
Like, just a thought, you know?
Yeah, I mean, by firing a warning shot, you're basically just shooting at an unintended target at that point, instead of the actual target that is apparently threatening your life. And there's that whole idea of the force has to match the threat. And this guy harassing you at your doorstep is not life-threatening.
No, and here's the thing. The Frank Castle, a dude's a douchebag, 100%. But also, Boogie could have just stayed inside.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Somebody that I'm having an online argument with shows up at my house in real life, I'm not stepping outside. I'm calling the cops. That's it. The cops will handle it for me. I'm going to say, hey, this person is harassing me. They've been harassing me online, and they've showed up to my place of residence to harass me further in person.
Yeah, that sounds
I don't go
reasonable.
outside. I don't engage. I certainly don't fire a warning shot.
I mean, shit, even if Boogie wants to go out there and, assault this guy, like, he could at least use his fists or something. Or a more reasonable weapon or armament that isn't going to harm somebody else unintentionally.
Yeah, dude, I know that Boogie's got a fucking katana somewhere in that house.
Oh, yeah. And he was in that boxing match, too. Surely he can punch to some extent.
All right, well, you're laughing, so I'm not going to be too harsh on you, Carl, but you're giving him a lot of credit.
So basically, as time went on, Boogie became more exposed as the liar, scammer, and manipulator that he really is. And his go-to, really, is using sympathy and pity to exploit his audience. Basically, he loves to be seen as just a lowly, woe-is-me wretch. Like, everything bad happens to me. Yeah.
He's just a small bean, bro.
Uh-huh.
He's just a small bean cinnamon roll. Fuck.
He can't go 5 minutes without talking about his attempted suicides or his depression or how people in his family have died or he got sexually assaulted by who knows how many people in his family or just how he mismanaged his money and is broke now.
People like Boogie are... he's a leech,
Yeah.
Like I said, he can't let go of the lifestyle that he's had a taste of, and so now he will do anything to maintain even a semblance of that lifestyle. And if that includes, emotionally manipulating the portion of your audience who hasn't already been scared away by your absolutely abhorrent and embarrassing fucking behavior, then by God, he'll do it.
I mean, he was doing this stuff while he was still popular too. Like, he was constantly like, I'm so sad. Everything bad happens to me. Please donate money to me.
It's a lot harder to feel bad for him once he starts showing his true colors. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you can't quite get away with that these days, Boogie.
Well, now that he has no audience, that's basically the only card he can play.
Yeah.
It's the pity me, feel bad for me card. And he definitely played that card in a big way when he allowed this documentary to be released. So in 2023, Mike Klum released a feature-length documentary titled The Dark, Sad Life of Boogie2988, which is currently sitting at 5 million views. And Boogie was like, he obviously agreed to be a part of it and gave it a seal of approval and said, yep, put this out. And that's because, well, it makes him look fucking pathetic. And he loves it.
Yeah, and that's his brand now, man. Like, look how pathetic I am.
I mean, he goes out of his way. He must intentionally hyperbolize in this thing. He probably altered some of his own finances just to make himself seem more broke. And basically, he goes out of his way as much as possible in this documentary to just show how he is just he's just like the most unlovable sad sack.
Desolate.
Yeah. He talks about constantly his depression, his loneliness, his self-destructive behaviors, and his self-pity. And it's like the most downer thing you can possibly watch. Like, there are a few bright spots in this documentary, but basically it's just a huge pity party for Boogie, and he's in on it.
I don't know if I could even force myself to watch that, man.
I watched it.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I watched it, yep, as research for this episode.
Dude, I appreciate you for kind of taking one for the team there. I don't know if I could sit through an hour and a half of Boogie's self-flagellation.
It was slightly better because I watched a commentary of the full thing.
Oh, okay. Thank God.
So
it's always so nice to watch something cringy through the filter of somebody else watching it.
So basically, the documentary covers his financial mismanagement, how he lost a bunch of his money that he made from YouTube on crypto. He spent a bunch of it on women, escorts, and being a sugar daddy. He owns his home, which he continues to stay in despite not making that same level of income. He basically buys tons of collectibles and things that he's living above his means, basically, constantly. And he cannot.
I told you, man.
Yeah.
He can't let go.
He's in denial.
All those fucking Funko Pops are adding up.
And basically, he can't work a real job. He's on disability. And yeah, he's just holding on to, I want to be a YouTuber again. And this is my way back in. Is getting everyone to pity me. There's a whole section in this documentary where he goes to like a recruitment agent. Basically, they're going to find him employment. And, the lady that he goes to see is just like, well, tell me a bit about your background. And when you go to somewhere like that, the idea is you sell yourself as like, well, I have a lot of strengths and this is where I think I could find my job. And you try to present yourself in the best way possible, right? I mean, every interview I've ever had, I want to get in there and say, yes, I'm good at these things and these are my strengths and so on. Basically, Boogie goes in there and he starts telling his whole life sob story. And he talks about how he tried to kill himself, which he cannot stop himself from bringing up. He talks about how he's constantly depressed. He was involved in the porn industry at one point. He basically self-sabotages his way through the whole thing so that at the end he can say, look, guys, I tried. I really tried to get a job and they can't find work for me. So guess I just gotta, be unemployed and do this YouTube thing. It's the only thing I can do. Nobody will hire me. I wonder why.
It's crazy the lengths that people will go to just like fucking avoid, I don't know, accountability, responsibility. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy, Boogie.
I mean, shit, if you're like 400 pounds and you've been living like the YouTuber life and the good life, you were rich. He was like probably could have had $1 million at one point. I don't know.
I have no doubt in my mind that he was probably significantly wealthy.
He was very wealthy at one point and he had that lifestyle. And yeah, he's clinging to it. He does not want to go back to just being a regular person. He does not want to live at his own means. And I think he believes that if he can garner enough sympathy, that maybe he can get back there one day. Now,
he won't let go. The dream won't die.
After the documentary came out, well, things got a little better for him. And his views went up again, though I imagine they're going to slowly, gradually plummet their way back down. And eventually there will come a time where nobody knows who Boogie is.
I mean, yeah, something like that's only a temporary fix because it doesn't actually change who Boogie is as a person.
Mm-hmm. And he's going to do something bad again. Obviously.
Yeah.
He can't help himself. Either that or he'll die of a heart attack or something in the next 5 years.
God.
I don't know. All right, next up, somebody who just died yesterday.
Yeah, speaking of problematic celebrities dying.
This is O.J. Simpson.
Rest in peace, Orenthal James Simpson. It was really a shame that he died before they found out who killed his wife.
Yeah. He'll never get that satisfaction of knowing, and that peace, knowing of who murdered his wife. It's a shame.
It's a shame, really.
So, Orenthal James Simpson was born in 1947, and he died April 10th, 2024. He was an American football player, actor, and broadcaster. He spent 11 years in the NFL, primarily with the Buffalo Bills, and he was one of the most exceptional running backs in the sport's history.
He was a monster.
Yes.
He was, unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah. He's one of the greatest football players of all time, basically. He was named NFL Player of the Year in 1973, and he played in 6 Pro Bowls. He was the only player in the NFL history to rush for over 2,000 yards in a 14-game season, and he's the only player to rush for over 200 yards in 6 different games in his career. So the man could run. He could do the sports really well.
Loose, man.
Yes. In 1975, People magazine described OJ as the first black athlete to become a bona fide, lovable media superstar. So, I mean, he's a well-loved athlete. He's an actor. He's just like a general celebrity. He's just well-loved by everyone.
People love him.
Mm-hmm. So, as far as his acting career or appearances on the screen, in 1978, he hosted SNL when that was actually popular. In 2006, he starred in his own improv-based hidden camera prank TV show called Juiced.
Okay.
Basically, they do a little... They'd prank people on the street, and then he'd jump out and say, "You just got juiced."
God. I guess if O.J. Simpson did jump out at me in 2006, I would be terrified.
Yeah, that's why the show didn't go too long. Famously, he endorsed Hertz Rent-A-Car, and after partnering up with O.J., Hertz's annual profit increased by 50% within the first year.
Wow.
So yeah, he helped market lots of other products as well too. Just because, well, I guess that's what famous people do, especially after they retire from sports.
What's the My Chemical Romance line? Something about watching your hero sell a car on TV.
Yeah,
that might have actually been about OJ. To be fair,
yeah, or be a lot cooler if you did. What's his name? He drives the Lincoln. Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I drive a Lincoln. Anyway. So where did it all go wrong for OJ? It seems like he had everything. He was at the top of the world.
And it was taken from him.
It was when he was wrongfully accused of murder. Double murder.
Double murder. So not the juice.
If you're like me and Mel and you were born in 94 or later, OJ Simpson is just known as a murderer to you.
Generous classification for me. I was born in 01. I mean, that is 94 or later, but...
I mean, a lot of this shit happened just before I was born. I remember that, like, my mom tied, her pregnancy and my birth with the O.J. Simpson trial. So, but yeah, I mean, my whole life, O.J. Simpson's just been that guy who murdered his wife and her friend. Like,
he was never anything beyond that.
Which just goes to show, like, for other people prior to that, he was the football man. He was O.J. Simpson, the beloved celebrity actor and athlete.
Yeah.
But basically after this, well, he was infamous for he got away with it. He was a murderer.
He did it.
So what exactly did he do? Well, because, it's so long ago, some people might just be totally unfamiliar or just know that, like, he killed somebody. I don't really know the details. But basically, Simpson met his future wife, Nicole Brown, in 1977. She was working as a waitress in a Beverly Hills nightclub. And at the time, he was still married to his first wife, Marguerite. But he started dating Simpson anyway because he was just that fly. And
wow, he's a bit of a player on the field and off the field.
I mean, he's irresistible, that's for sure. So Simpson and his wife divorced in 1979. Brown and Simpson were married in 1985, 5 years after his retirement from professional football. They had a couple little offspring. The marriage lasted 7 years, and there was some accusations and charges of domestic abuse, which Simpson pleaded no contest to. So clearly troubled, which led to their divorce in 1992. But that just wasn't enough because on the night of June 12th, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were found stabbed to death outside of Nicole's LA condo. Simpson, he was a suspect, of course, the ex-husband. And he was advised...
I mean, to be fair, not a bad guess, statistically.
Right. I mean, when you're investigating a murder, of course, you always look at the husband or the ex or whatever, the boyfriend. Because, like 75% of the time, they did it, okay? I've watched Forensic Files.
Aren't, like, most people killed by people that they know?
Uh-huh.
Like, is that true? I can't remember. I think it is, though.
Yeah, sounds about right. But his lawyer advised that he turn himself in, and he was like, well, okay, I suppose I will. And he got cold feet. Because, well, he ended up speeding off in his white Bronco. And he led the police on a low-speed car chase. And he was, I forget who was driving the car. But basically, he was in the car, and he had a gun, and he was saying, I'll kill myself, don't get too close. Let me go home. I don't want to turn myself in. So basically, all the cops were following him very slowly, with caution, because they don't want to upset OJ and have him off himself. And eventually, they were able to arrest him. The pursuit, arrest, and trial of Simpson were among the most widely publicized events in American history. So this was the first publicized trial. This was like, you could watch this on TV, and that was a big deal at the time.
It was a crazy, groundbreaking
people
thing.
basically dropped what they're doing to watch the O.J. Simpson case.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine, like, the day the verdict came in, that was like similar to 9/11.
So crazy thing to compare it to, but I'm not gonna like.
I mean, it's one of those days where
disagree.
you basically drop everything and you go to the TV, and there's like celebrations or in the streets or something like that, you know?
Yeah, and in that regard, yes, similar to 9/11, people probably did drop what they were doing to see the OJ chase.
Yes, like life stopped basically at that point, so everyone could focus on this one huge media event, which I wouldn't call 9/11 a media event, but anyway. So basically, considering that O.J. Simpson had a lot of money, he was able to hire what he called the dream team of lawyers. And two of those guys were Kim Kardashian's dad and Johnny Cochran. Basically, their job was like, well, there's a lot of evidence here, and it's tricky.
It's looking pretty bad.
It's looking bad for us, but you hired the dream team. We're going to do everything in our power to make the evidence look fishy. It was planted. It's misleading. It's not really how it looks.
The glove didn't fit.
The timeline doesn't match up. We're going to put every shred of doubt in the jury's head that we possibly can. And we're going to work these racial tensions in our favor. Like, oh, of course we're going to say that the black man did it. Because it's 1994. But basically, they're doing their jobs really well, basically, at the end of the day.
Great lawyers, I guess, depending on who you ask.
Yeah. They did their lawyer job, and they gave him a damn good defense, and they discredited the evidence as well as they could. Most famously, I think, as Mel kind of referenced, was they had the bloody glove, and they decided, let's have OJ try on the bloody glove. And Johnny Cochran says something like, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. And guess what? The glove didn't fit. Because it was all soaked in blood and it got all shrunk up. And I think they even did some kind of thing to make OJ's hands swell up before they tried that. So it definitely didn't fit. And they have that iconic picture of OJ trying on the glove that was found at the scene. It doesn't fit. There's just no way that he could have done it. So that was a huge win for them. They had plenty of other shreds of doubt that they were able to throw in. And well, the idea behind a murder trial is you basically have to decide, like with little doubt, that this person is guilty. Like, if doubt has been cast upon you for any good reason, if there's a reasonable doubt to think this person is innocent, as a juror, you're supposed to decide, well, they're not guilty. And, of course, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Wasn't he found, like, civilly liable, though?
Yeah.
Like, financially liable for their deaths?
Yeah, there was a separate trial for wrongful death and assault, and he ended up paying out a bunch in civil court. But,
which is crazy, because that kind of just, like, doesn't that kind of prove that he probably did it?
Well, that's just crazy. That's the way the law works. Like, you can be not guilty of murder, but being charged with wrongful death or assault, those are different charges that you can be tried for.
Murder is a legal term, I guess.
So, yeah, basically, he was found liable for the wrongful death of Ron. Not his wife, though. He got charged for assault for her because that's all they could really prove.
Pin on him, yeah.
And he did pay out the ass for that, but he did not do any jail time. Despite that, of course, most people, I don't know if I say most people, but there was a large population of people who still think, well, yeah, he did it.
I would say that's kind of the common belief is that he did it.
I mean, it was kind of a divisive issue. There was definitely a portion of people who believed, well, justice has been served here.
Yeah, I don't know. Like with like the whole like Michael Jackson thing is like that's a pretty divisive thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like most people that like I've talked to have been like, yeah, OJ definitely did that shit.
We've also had a lot more time to marinate on it too.
That is
I'm talking about
very
like
true.
at the time, people were a little more divided on this.
Yeah.
And there wasn't quite as much time to really soak in all the evidence, I suppose.
Yeah.
And he didn't come out with his book that said, if I did it, where he basically just admitted that, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, that's I think his the families of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson own the rights to that book.
Really?
Yeah, I think as part of the payout because they were sitting on this unpublished book, and so they decided that OJ would have to release the book, but the publishing rights would go to the families of the victims. That way, they would get the money from the book, and OJ wouldn't get anything from it.
Interesting. It makes me wonder at this time, now that OJ is dead, did he just leave behind something that was just like, yeah, I did it? Like, is it going to come out in his will or something, or in some kind of something that he left behind that he'll just come clean?
Dude, I mean, what if he just on his deathbed, surrounded by his family, he was like, I did that shit, and then he just croaked.
And his family's like, yeah, we know, OJ, we know.
Yeah, his family's like, yeah, we know. Like, it's he didn't have to tell us that.
I mean, this is like probably the most notorious, like, he did it, but he got off.
Yeah, this is like the biggest he got away with the crime like ever.
Yeah, the evidence was just loose enough to have that reasonable doubt that, well, he was found not guilty.
You know what else is loose? The juice.
The juice is loose.
Well, not anymore, I guess,
no. But he
was for quite a number of decades.
Yeah, and that being said, he was still a pariah. He was known as a murderer unofficially.
Yeah. That was his kind of reputation.
For many decades. And you would think that you got away with it, okay? You got to kill your ex-wife and her friend in a murderous, stabby rage. And you got away with it. Good for you, buddy, okay? Now, lie low, okay? Stay out of the spotlight. Don't commit any more crimes. Knock that shit off, okay?
Yeah.
Just live out the rest of your days in wealth and just be glad that you're not in prison. But that wasn't good enough for OJ because on December 5th, 2008, he was sentenced to a total of 33 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 9 years. So he served 9 years and he was released on parole in 2017. And in 2021, his parole was ended due to his good behavior. So, despite getting away with murder, he just couldn't help himself, had to go out and commit some more crimes. And he did end up serving 9 years in prison for an unrelated charge. So we can't exactly say justice was served, but it's not like he got away scot-free.
Yeah, I mean, he had something, some form of punishment.
I mean, he paid out for that civil case, which
that's true. That's true.
Is, it's a lot of money, but to him, maybe it's not that significant. But yeah, he did serve
for the juice.
He served a solid 9 years in prison for a totally unrelated crime. And just yesterday, he died of prostate cancer. So in that way, I guess, maybe he got what he deserved.
Rest in peace.
I won't go that far. And on that note, this has been Disgraced Celebrities. We'll see you next Tuesday on the next episode of The Long Couch.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.